Okay, good morning. Spectating and speculating number 59. What a wonderful way to spend most days. Waking up in the morning, thinking about ways to share out my appreciation for this life and what it has brought since my coming to faith 24 years ago. And I'm calling this video, How Does God Say Good Morning? And in my life, I find that my pets, our pets, we have 4 cats and 1 dog at this point in our life, as well as a lot of wildlife around the property. Even though we live in town, we were very fortunate to obtain a property with a large backyard. And it's got trees all around it, and my son and I fenced it in with a high fence a couple of decades ago. The fence is still holding. You can probably hear birds in the background right now because we have a lot of bird food out and corn for deer and stuff like that. We very often see deer in the backyard. I actually fenced off a special area back there for them to nest in where the dog can't get at them in the way back. It's about a half-acre property altogether. And we've seen owls and every kind of bird that you would expect to see in the Carolinas. And we've developed a pretty good relationship with our wildlife in terms of them being able to fairly often depend on us for snacks. And we don't shoot at them, so they feel rather safe here. I remember that we have an owl, or perhaps a few generations of owls for as long as we've lived here. And we used to have a cat years ago who, as a kitten, was grabbed by an owl. And it fought like the dickens as the owl was carrying it away. It was a small cat at the time. He was out in the backyard. And we just happened to be looking in the direction. We heard a fuss up in a tree and looked and saw that this cat was being carried away by a big old owl. But the cat fought. The owl released it. The cat fell. It hit something on the side of the tree and bounced off it and hit the ground. I thought, my God, that poor thing is dead. And as I started walking toward it, it jumped up and ran away. And it wasn't dead. And we had that cat for a couple more years. It survived okay. I think that encounters with birds of prey or any kind of creature of prey definitely puts the heebie-jeebies in a mammal. And that cat was a little bit skittish for the remainder of its life. A car eventually got it. But I believe that was our cat Capo, and Capo was a real sweetie. Most of our pets, actually, or at least a lot of them over the years, the cats, were named by our kids. Quite a few of them by Emmy, and Capo was one of them. We had Capo way back when Emily was in band. And as I've said, we see deer in the backyard. And quite often we see them coming out of the woods on either side of our house, between our house and the properties beside us. And they'll walk right across the street to a vacant house across the street and sit over there and eat honeysuckle when it's in season. And sometimes they'll just stand there and I'll walk out and look at them, and they don't seem terrifically afraid of me. And, you know, our last name, Hart, means a male deer, a stag or a buck. So I don't know, there's something rather numinous about deer hanging around the property, you know, at the beginning or at the end of a wonderful day. Our dog Jocko, he's a real piece of work. Jocko is a mutt that belonged to somebody else who had such a busy working schedule. This is over 10 years ago. That he just was spending his puppyhood in an empty house, and he was tearing it up like they do. Just like people, animals will experience separation anxiety, and they have feelings, and they have fears, and they also have a terrific amount of affection. Our dog Jocko has bitten me, my wife, and a number of other people, and every single time it was human error. He's not a bitey dog, but he's a dog who was neglected as a puppy, and he's got some psychology going on. He bit my left hand, which is my guitar fretting hand, and it hasn't been right since. But it was my fault. Whenever a person is bitten by an animal, it's human error. There are very few animals on this planet that are just going to snap at people for no particular reason. Usually it has to do with sort of anti-feng shui, where you're in the wrong place at the right time, doing the wrong thing, and the animal reacts to you. As for me, even though this dog put a nice hole in my hand a few years back, he's the sweetest dog. He is the most loving and affectionate pup I've had in years. He's a sweetie, and he spends a good part of his day out on the porch with my wife and I. He loves running around in the backyard. The deer know that he might be out there, so they have their own sort of relational ecosystem out back and stuff. Jocko's very talkative. He loves to eat. He's real cuddly. Thunder will make him jump right up in your lap. And he's a mutt. He's a combination of a kind of a rare small herding dog and a Pomeranian. And he's quite lovely. He has a lovely coat, and he's a sweet guy, and we just adore him to pieces. Now, how does God say good morning? Well, my animals seem to say good morning every single day to me the first time we see each other. And when I walk out of the bedroom, one of the first things I see, probably the very first thing that I see, is our cat Arpeggio. And we call her Peggy. This one was named by my daughter, Emmy, and back when she was a band kid. And Peggy is very interesting. Peggy was a stray that Emily found when she was just a tiny, tiny kitten. And she brought it home, as she has often done in her life. She's been a provider of pets. And she brought this little kitten home, and we were working on, helping it get fed and helping it get used to being around people and stuff like that. And not too long after we got that kitten, our dog Jocko, like he will do, see, human error is a big deal here. He can jump up and push against the back door of the house and shove it open if it's not locked. If he wants to go outdoors. This isn't the way we do things, but sometimes we forget to put the hasp on the back door, and we'll walk in the house and find the door open, and he's in the backyard. Well, when we got Peggy, when she was a little baby kitty, it was wintertime. Jocko knocked the back door open and went out there to do his business, and she followed him. And my wife and I realized that we couldn't find the kitten that day. We looked everywhere. We were opening drawers. We were looking behind furniture, under the couch, all that stuff you would do. We couldn't find her. And Jocko, our dog, was acting strange that day. He wanted to go out back. He really wanted to go out back. He was fussing at the back door. And it occurred to one or the other of us that maybe that kitten was out back somehow, had gotten out. So we let him out. And by golly, he went out there in the backyard and ran around, stopped at a certain spot over near the side, and started barking. And we went out there and we found that poor little kitten somehow or another under about 6 inches of snow, just curled up in a ball. and brought her back in the house, warmed her all up, dried her off and stuff. And, gee whiz, this was probably 7, 8, 9 years ago. And I think that she suffered some kind of major trauma being out there in the snow. And she's ever since then been pretty skittish. Um, Less so in the last couple of years, but by gosh, for 5 years or so, she was the most scaredy cat you've ever seen. And she also had some skin problems, probably related to that cold exposure when she was a kitten. But when I walk out of my bedroom in the morning, Peggy is sitting right on the post at the bottom of the banister there, of the stairs directly outside the bedroom door, waiting for me and looking right at me. And she wants some affection every time you walk by. She's such a sweet cat. She spends almost her entire life sitting right there on that banister post. She gets down to eat. She gets down to do her business. She gets down for a drink of water. Every now and a great while, she'll play a little bit with Little Man. That's the nickname for Chuggy Pig. And the two of them they've become pretty good buddies. Chuggy Pig is even more skittish than Peggy, and he goes into hiding if anyone other than my wife or I is in the house. And sometimes he'll remain in hiding for hours after we have company. He's an exceptionally skittish cat. Another one that Emily brought home. This cat was the sole survivor of a hawk attack on a poultry farm. And the hawk had attacked a little litter of kittens and gotten all of them but one. And Chuggy is the one he didn't get. But he did get Chuggy's tail, bit it right off. And this poor kitten with a missing tail was underneath a hen with the eggs in a hen house after the attack. And my daughter was able to obtain the kitten. She said she would take it. And she brought him home to us. And the way he looked with his striped back when he was a little tiny thing, smaller than a softball when he was curled up, he looked a lot like what we used to call potato bugs, right? Those strange little insects that are underneath rocks in damp places that curl up in a ball when they sense danger. When he was curled up, he looked like one of those. And my wife found that potato bugs are called Chuggy Pigs over in the United Kingdom, and she thought that was a good name for him. We call him Chuggy. I call him Little Man. He's a wonderful cat, sweet as can be, loves doing head bumps. He lets you pick him up. He doesn't have a scratch in him unless if somebody walks in the front door while you're holding him, you'll probably get a scratch as he leaps away. But other than that, he's the most affectionate cat I've ever had. Possibly with the exception of Callie that we had years ago. Something happened to Callie. I don't know what it was. He grew to be a big, huge, healthy cat. And we get our cats to the vet for shots and stuff like that, but he caught something. And one day he was sitting around and he just started vomiting, and he was dead in about 15 minutes. He just keeled over and died. He wasn't but a few years old, and there's just some things we can never understand about our pets. Let me get back to Chuggy Pig. Now, Chuggy Pig also had a botfly larva up under his skin when we got him. It was kind of freaky to look at this little wound on the side of a kitten and literally see an insect larva pop out and go back in. And we got him right to the vet super quick. And the vet, they were just tickled to pieces that somebody came in with an animal that had a botfly larva in it, because they'd learned about it in veterinary school and yet they'd never seen the real thing. And so they solved that, took a lot of pictures and stuff, and got him all healed up, and he's grown into the healthiest little guy you've ever seen in your life. And he and Peggy associate with one another. There are two indoor cats, and they're lovely critters. Oh, back to Peggy. I hydrate a lot, and whenever I come out with some cold water and there's condensation on the glass, Peggy stands right up on that banister post and wants to lick the condensation off the glass. I mean, it's almost as though when during the daytime, that's the thing she's waiting for the most, is to be able to drink some of that condensation off the side of whatever beverage glass is going by, or ice water bottle. She's a real sweetheart. As for our outdoor cats, we have two. The oldest cat that we have is named Treble. She's the oldest of the four. She weighs less for a cat her size than any cat I've ever picked up. She feels almost as though she's full of air. She's so lightweight. She's strong, she's fast, she's healthy, she's alert, she eats well, she loves people food, but she doesn't gain weight. Lean as can be. And she loves her mama. She cannot stay away from her mama. Actually, all of the animals love their mama. She's their favorite, most of them. And Trebby is a beautiful short-haired gray cat, and she is just as sweet as can be, very quiet. She's not very talkative like some animals are. Peggy always says hello when somebody walks by. Big Boy is quite talkative. We've had other cats that were pretty talkative too. Trebby's an angel. We worry about her when she stays away, but we've realized in the last year or so that the people next door feed her too. So she kind of vacillates between their porch and our porch. And I think she comes here for the lovin's. I think she goes there for the snacks. She's a real angel. And the other outdoor cat is this big, huge beast of a cat that adopted us. Used to be a wild cat that was just roaming the neighborhood. But a few years ago, he decided that he wanted this to be home base. And we call him Big Boy. He is the sweetest thing ever. And he is the biggest and muscliest cat that I've ever had. He is gigantic. You can see him sprawling behind the computer, and honest to goodness, he's very nearly 3 feet long when he's at rest and sprawled out. Very affectionate, real hungry little guy. He loves those kitty treats. He loves to sun. You know, if you remember seeing lions in the savannah lolling around in the sun, he's just like that. He likes to lay at my feet. Of all the pets we have, I think he's the only one that likes me best. And sometimes in the middle of the night, if I'm going to the bathroom, I'll look out the front door, and very often he stations himself at night right outside the front door, where he can kind of keep an eye on us. Maybe keep an eye on what's coming toward the house. All pets become territorial when they realize that this is my home now. They become territorial. They've got to learn to be around one another. And most of them get along with one another pretty good. Female cats are generally behaviorally a little more unpredictable than male cats. We've had so many cats over the years. They don't live a long time. You're lucky to get 10 years out of a cat. But oh, Big Boy, he sure does love people. He just loves people to pieces. We used to see him walking up and down the street a number of years ago, and He's actually still friends with some of the other strays that roam the neighborhood. There aren't that many of them, but there are a few, and he gets along with every single one of them. He's not a fighty cat like Treble is. Treble will chase another cat away. Big Boy will just sort of keep an eye on him. In fact, he'll sit up here on the porch and watch raccoons eat the cat food at night and not fuss with them. He's a pretty easygoing dude. And why am I talking about these pets? Well, I can say that in my life, people can be really disappointing. People can be continually disappointing for days, weeks, years, maybe your entire life. There's somebody in your life that just the relationship is not going to improve. You know? The kind of people that the way they treat you is like an animal biting you, as though you've made a mistake and you deserve a consequence for it. A lot of people that do that weren't provoked into it by human error. It's their nature to bite others. First thing every day when I walk out of bed and head toward the kitchen for a cup of coffee and something to eat, I pass 3 of these animals. I pass Peggy and pat her, and she looks at me like, good morning. And then I walk through the living room, and there's Chuggy, who I call Little Man most of the time. And there's Jocko, laying on the futon, between the front door and the rest of the house, like they do when people are sleeping. They station themselves in places to protect those they love. Sometimes when I go in the kitchen, I look out the kitchen window while I'm rinsing out a cup, and there's deer in the backyard, enjoying this place where we live as much as we do. This is honeysuckle season. We're seeing them quite a bit. It's wonderful. And you know, by the time I get my coffee into me, right, and a biscuit in the toaster oven, and come out on the porch to enjoy the morning air, I'm generally in a very good mood. And the only interactions I've had are with critters. I believe that when we give love to creation, it responds with love. As I said in my last video, human beings who have free will and angels who use their free will to, disobey God, they don't work in concert with creation. They work against it. And so I'm really grateful that I'm married to somebody and we've had children who all love animals, cats and dogs. And I believe with my whole heart that in some ways, pets can be almost like ministering spirits. Maybe angels communicate to us through our pets to get us from one state of mind to a proper state of mind. The pets we keep, like Adam, we name them. Like Adam, we tend and shepherd and feed and care for creation. Some people say it's not morally right to keep an animal. You're entitled to your opinion. But all of our animals are rescue pets. And I dare say that they would probably, at least a few of them, have been euthanized if we hadn't invited them into our realm here. I'm not bragging. I'm very selfish. I love having animals around. I love having dependents, right, to shepherd. It's wonderful. And we never have a lick of trouble unless there's human error. Unless there's human error. How does God say good morning to you? Through creation.